Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here on the show. Today, we have an incredible special guest who I've known for quite some time. He has absolutely rocked stages of rooms that I've been in, speaking to thousands of people. But getting ready for this particular podcast episode was a real joy as I dug into his history and into his rise to fame. Making his first million at age 21, he has been nominated for the Forbes 30 Under 30. He is the best-selling author of the No More Average book. He is the president and founder of Audate Media and the founder of ProGrader, an incredible software platform. And it is an incredible pleasure to welcome Andy Audate to the show. Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's exciting to be on here with you.
Man, it is incredible to see your rise to fame. I've been in the room while you've been talking, man, and you're electric. You have an incredible way of engaging with audiences. And I'm looking at your socials, you've got 80,000 plus people that are following you on Instagram. You've got more than 110,000 people who are engaged with you on Facebook across all of the media platforms. You are absolutely rocking the growth here. How did this all get started for you? Like this 30 under 30 thing, you made your first million at age 21. So success seems like it's been in your blood. How did you kind of start on this road, man?
I started because I wanted Nike Air Forces. That's the real starting point. Nike Air Forces, the black top, the black mid tops, the ones with the Velcro swoosh on the side, and my dad said, "I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna go get it for you. I'm gonna go get you the shoes." And he went to New York, and I don't know if he thought I would forget it, but he went to New York, came back without them, and I realized that the real reason he couldn't get them was because of finances. And so I said, all right, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get the shoes that I want. And it was snowing at the time on the East Coast in the United States. It was snowing, and I went to door and I said, hey, can I shovel for you? Pay me $20. So I got enough people to pay me between $10 and $20. And I made my first 160 bucks. And I remember I was ironing the clothes. I was ironing the money on my bed, and my mom came in. I felt like a drug dealer at the time. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I got all this money on my bed. It was $160, right? And I was ironing it to make it flat, and I didn't end up buying the shoes because I realized like it was my money at that point, and I wanted to make sure. But that lesson taught me such a huge lesson of what it actually takes to create results, and that was the starting point for me, man.
Wow, that's incredible, man. So you literally had that drive, go and create something, go and create an income stream from like shoveling snow. And then like how did you go from there? So you've gone into the telecom industry, like you've started in retail. I'm reading your history there. Like you were all the way back starting in kind of metro PCs, computer shops, that kind of stuff. Like what happened from school, college and into the entrepreneurial world that you're now rocking in?
My mom was like, "Hey, go to college, get a degree. Maybe one day you can graduate." And I remember her secret number, not the secret number, but the big number was $80,000 a year. So now I have expenses that are $80,000 a year. But I remember back then she was like, go to school and you can graduate. And when you graduate, you can work a job, maybe in the medical field. And after a certain amount of years, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you can then get upwards of $80,000. Why wouldn't you want to get upwards of $80,000 after spending a decade working for somebody? And I said, I was quiet. I remember when she was explaining it to me, I was very quiet, but in my head, I was doing the math and I was like, do I have to really wait that long? And so I started my journey. I did go to school. I went to school for a semester. I couldn't do the math. It wasn't working for me. There was a math class that I couldn't pass. And it was the math class to get into college. And I couldn't pass that. I could pass every other class, couldn't pass that one. So I remember at that time I was working a job. And the job that I was working was Metro PCS, which is a cell phone franchise in the United States. And I went to my boss at the time was telling me like, Andy, you don't have to go to school. You can learn sales, you can learn how to close deals, learn how to make your own money. And look at us. And it was some black guys that I worked for that that showed me the game. And they ended up mentoring me. And then I ended up becoming business partners with them. It was a huge growth spurt with Metro PCS because in 2013 they got acquired by T-Mobile. T-Mobile is one of the biggest cell phone companies in the United States, one of the top four. And Metro PCS was a prepaid brand, which was like one of the smaller carriers. And usually, as a smaller carrier, you have to go under one of the top four. So originally, they were under Sprint, and then T-Mobile came in, bought them out, and it made them a top tier business, gave them all the skills, all the systems, all the technology. Now, I was a manager at one of their locations. So when T-Mobile came in, they put a bunch of resources and they put something in the community called MDF, Market Development Funds, where T-Mobile put down hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars into growing the brand back then. And I was able to scoop up some of the money, but most importantly, I was able to open up my own locations. So I ended up having four brands with T-Mobile, four locations. And then I made my first million myself, my own million, not taking T-Mobile's money, my own million. And that's when I had enough money to leave, and I essentially retired for a cool bit of time. And I went to go figure out what I wanted to do. And I went to go figure out I wanted to become a digital marketing expert. And I transitioned into digital marketing and went on a journey of studying digital marketing. And that's where I am today.
Wow.
And
Did you go
it's
back and
been
buy
10 years.
the Nike blacktop shoes, man, when you had that million?
I I did buy the Nike. It was a nostalgic moment. I did buy the shoes. I remember going to the mall and I bought the shoes. I bought a lot of shoes, and it was full circle, but at the time I realized like there were bigger fish to fry and bigger things. But that was the beautiful start of a huge journey that I'm still on today.
Amazing, dude. Amazing. So let me dig into a couple of little points there. So you did something at age 21 that most people wait until their later life to do. You retired for a little while. So you had that million in the bank. Um, Tell me about that time. Like how long were you unplugged for and what happened mentally, what happened emotionally, what happened to Andy Audate during that time of early millionaire status and retirement?
So I moved. I lived in a small town, and then I moved to Los Angeles, California. So that was the big thing. And then I moved into skyrise apartments right now. I was living right next to the Staples Center, which is now the crypto.com arena in downtown Los Angeles. So right in front of my house essentially is like the Lakers coming in and out. Like I was spending buku bucks to, living where I was living compared to where I'm from. Bought cars, stuff like that, and there was a time where I would actually have a different car every week. I started renting a lot of cars, so I would have an Audi one week, and then I would have a Ford, one of the classics with the Fords, and I don't even know the names of the cars. I would just rent different cars. I would just look at them in a lot, and I would just rent different cars. I would travel. I would go to Miami, California. I would travel a lot, and I wasn't working that this whole time. And I think the biggest mistake that I made reverting back is I didn't have any income source.
Mm.
My ego was it was so easy to do it. Like think about this. I'm 21 years old, and it was so easy to do it the first time. I'll just do it again. And um, there was a lot of lessons that I learned, and I thought those lessons were enough to just do it again and again and again and again and again. So I didn't have any income. I left the industry, and the reason I left the industry, Walt, it was because there was actually a scenario. I'm a man who likes freedom. I enjoy freedom. I don't like in school. I didn't like being told what to do, things of that nature, right? And in 2015, there was like this huge blizzard in Rhode Island, where I'm originally from. And I had the stores and my employees, I said, hey, look, it's snowing. There's no reason for me to pay payroll. On top of that, there's no reason for me, for you guys to go into the store. You guys don't even want to go into the store. And we're probably not going to sell cell phones. The snow is waist high. We're not going to go sell cell phones today. And um, I told my team, you don't have to go into work. A couple hours later, I'm sleeping, and T-Mobile calls me. We had a representative. Each franchise dealer gets a representative. And T-Mobile calls me and says, Andy, your store's not open. What's going on? I'm at one of the stores in Coventry, which we converted a Subway into a cell phone store. And so they're at the store and like, your store's not open. I'm like, dude, it's snowing. There's no one's gonna buy. And it's like, per our agreement, you have to be open this time between that time and so on and so forth. And that's when it clicked. I'm a business owner, but I'm not really a business owner, right? So T-Mobile can tell me when to open, when to close, what terms, the color of my store, all the t-shirt color, I'm a franchise of someone else's business. And that's when it clicked. And I remember I can't tell my employees to go back. So I was shoveling the snow off of my car, whatever car I had at the time. And I was shoveling the snow, and I remember I made a declaration: I'm gonna get out of this. Like no one's gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna get out of this. And it took me probably 18 months, 18 months, 2 years to get out of that business, right? But we sold a lot of phones. We sold thousands of phones. And when I transitioned out of the industry, I didn't have a next journey. I wish I did. I promise you, brother. I wish I did. I still beat myself up. First of all, the mistake that I did was I didn't sell a business. I didn't know you could sell a business back then. I just turned 21. I was just allowed to drink. I didn't know you could sell a business. So I started dissolving the stores, dissolving inventory. I started selling off inventory and selling the products, but I never sold the business. Based on the trend of our revenue, we could have sold that business for 3 million bucks, but instead I dissolved it to nothing. It
Mm.
wasn't until the last 6 months that I could have actually done something, but I went to the West Coast. When I went to the West Coast, and I'm living this fancy lifestyle, I didn't do much. There was no fruit to my labor. It's honestly like one of those scenarios of a Bible principle or Bible story where like, all right, God gave you this money. How are you gonna multiply it? And it's like I didn't do anything with it. I was spending it. I was traveling, and then um, I remember I had to find a calling. I I want to find a calling to do something, and that's when God put me into church. I went to church, but there was a lot of emotional toil throughout that time. I started dating. You know, I went on a lot of Tinder dates and stuff like that. So I started dating, but I low-key went depressed a little bit because I
Mm.
had no direction of what I was doing. And then I went and got a mentor. I remember I went to this guy and I went to go work for him. And I said to him, I said, I want to work for you. And he was an Asian man in Orange County, California. And he's like, why do you want to work for me? I told him my background, which was a mistake. I told him my background, and he's like, why do you want to work for me? And I'm like, I want to work with you because your mindset. He had something called the millionaire mentor. Like he had a mindset of creating results, but he was also a married man. He had a family, he had a business. So it looked like to me like everything was working. And I remember working for him and I went to go do sales for him. I said, I don't care about the money. He gave me a $5,000 salary. I was like, bro, this $5,000 is nothing to me compared to what I got. All right. But the value of the principles that you're giving is what's important to me. So I spent a lot of time with him still to this day. So it's been about almost 10 years. Spent a lot of time with him and he gave me all the principles that I needed on how to sell, how to qualify, how to acquire customers, how to build a business, how to lead a team. And I saw him firsthand do it, and then I helped him do run his business for some time, and then I transitioned and I started my essentially my current business today.
Wow, amazing. And so you went from there into digital marketing. Why? What was it about that particular field through that mentorship, through the challenges of the telco stores that you had? Like, what led you then to go digital marketing is the future?
In between the so I was selling copiers. That's the product that I was selling for this gentleman in this gentleman in Orange County. I was selling copy machines, the big industrial kinds, the ones you go into hospitals and you close deals. Like those were the big deals. You go to a hospital, 17 units, each one cost $65,000. It's a big play. And I went to go door knocking selling those. Now, when I transitioned and I asked myself, what do I want? That was the question that he would ask almost weekly. What do you want? What do you want in your life? What are you creating? What do you want? What are you creating? What do you want? And I was like, I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to inspire people. And so I went online how to be a motivational speaker. I got I got an ad in front of me from a motivational speaker called Les Brown. It was a retargeting ad because of all the content I was searching. And I put my name, email, and phone number. Someone from their sales team called me. Now I know how that system works. Those funnels and those campaigns work. But someone from their team called me, and they said, "Hey, come and join Les Brown's program." I went and I joined Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker. Had a course, and I went and I started training on how to be a speaker. When I started being a trainer on how to be a speaker, I wanted to travel around the world with this gentleman and on his tour. And because of my age and my background, they're like, instead of you speaking, like I'll put you in the sales field and sell tickets. I'm not gonna put you as a speaker. I'll have you sell tickets. So I said, all right, I'll go sell tickets if that's the way that I'm gonna get in. So I went to go sell tickets for him, and then I ended up getting on other brands and helping other brands to pack out the events. And what I found was the system that was making the most money in the whole entire deal was the marketing. If you can control the traffic, if you can control the campaign, you can make a shit ton of money. So I decided to sell tickets by door knocking, but I also started to add the marketing element in there where instead of me door knocking, I can leverage Facebook, I can leverage Instagram, I can leverage Eventbrite, and I can leverage other people's audiences by building marketing campaigns. And that's how I got my start in digital marketing, was from speaking on stages and host and selling tickets to events, and then realizing I could leverage traffic, automation, rather than me doing the work, I can leverage all this technology to do the work for me to sell tickets. And that's what
Amazing.
was my start in digital marketing.
Incredible, man. Like I love that journey. Like going from the realization that the marketing flow, the marketing is what's making the money flow. Like that's super cool. So Andy, as we are talking right now, you are a bona fide influencer. Like you speak, people listen and follow. You have an incredible tribe of people that are that you're coaching along the way to achieve their own results as well. At what stage did you wake up and go, "Damn, this is incredible. Like people are listening to you and following you." When did that kind of realization take place for you?
During this conversation, man, I didn't really, you know, I just try to, one of the things that for me is like, I think about myself, my, my journey in previous stages. And I realized like, okay, this is what's working for me. And I just tell people what was working for me at previous stages.
Mm,
So I think that's where the influence comes because it's real pain. Like I remember I started like the ability to communicate and speak on stages. That was a true fear for me. I'm a naturally an introvert. I want to just go home, cuddle in bed, stay in bed and be in my comfort zone. That's my natural comfort zone. But there's been many times where I'm in the bathroom at an event that I'm up next to speak and I'm puking or like I got put water on my face or like all those elements or all those feelings, the butterfly, all those experiences, the fear. And I'm in the bathroom handling that before I go on stage. Then I go on stage and I'm like, all right, guys, welcome to this. And people are like, oh shit, like he's on fire. But like you didn't know what I was going through 20, 30 minutes ago because I had to
wow.
build up a skill set of how to communicate, right? I remember in 2000, like 2017 or so, I was out of college in Florida, UCF, and they had put me on stage, and this is the first time I'm speaking to people in college now. And at the time I was 21, so I'm not that far from them. And I had to present myself in a suit and like I'm looking at them like they're my peers and I'm feeling this sense of emotions, gnarly emotions that I'm like, okay, how am I going to handle this? So I can communicate to that for people who are going through that when it's their time to get on stage. And I could also communicate the effects afterwards. One of the quotes that I say is fear is a direction. The reason I say that is because every time that I've experienced a level of fear, what I found was that was the direction to go into. And so like I feel fear to go on stage. Okay, that's direction. That's what I got to do. I can talk about having the wrong business model as a digital marketer. I could talk about doing high ticket services when that was a cool thing for so long, but it left me in the hunt every single month for new business. Like once it starts working and you start making the 10,000, the 20,000, the 60, the $100,000 in high ticket sales, and you're like, oh, it's working. But then next month happens, and the month after that, where you have to go and find new revenue. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I love monthly recurring revenue where I get a customer once and then they pay me for years to come. I love seeing in Stripe, sending customers gifts and stuff like that. And I go into Stripe, I'm like, when did you sign up? And they're like, oh, 2021, or 4 years ago I've been with you. 5 years ago I've been with you. I did an event last week in the Philippines, and it was with a client of ours. And I'm like, how long have you been a client of ours? And they're like, hey, since 2020. I'm like, oh, that is phenomenal, man. Like since the pandemic. You chose to come with us during the pandemic, and you've seen our growth. And they're like, yeah, I've seen your growth, but they've been a paying subscriber for 5 years. So the fact that I'm able to live a lifestyle, but also give value every single month, that makes me get very creative on how I can
Mm,
deliver value to my clients every single month,
yeah.
rather than be on a hunt for a new customer every single month.
So we'll dive into the monetization in just a second because you're a client of ours with our Empire program, which we love you for, and which is providing like one of those recurring models in the back end. So we'll
Yeah,
dive into that in just a second. But focusing on the
and usage. We'll talk about usage too.
Yeah, let's do that. Absolutely. But focusing on the speaking for just for a moment. So, as you said, you can speak to millennials about the situation that they're in. You can talk to digital marketers about the wrong business model. You can talk to people about the fear of getting in front of groups, etc. But Andy, let me ask you. Being an influencer, being somebody that has that tribe, there's a responsibility of that leadership that comes with that as well. If you had a room full of people, let's go Les Brown standard, let's go Anthony Robbins standard. You've got an auditorium. There's 10,000 people in the room and you're about to go on stage. And you can speak on any topic you choose. What would be your topic of choice in that moment?
It would be it would be more life principles rather than business strategies, unless it was specific for business strategies, but it would be more life principles. And I
Tell me
think it
about
would be
that.
the life principles that God has given me. Number one is that thing of fear is a direction. The internal feeling of the butterflies, like that butterfly. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm fearful. Many look at that as something that is negative.
Mm,
I look at it as something that's actually positive. If anything, I look at it as a spiritual direction that God is saying, go in this direction. And maybe since we've been a child, we have misconstrued that feeling and interpreted it as a bad thing. So when I say that, hey, look, like if I have to make a decision, if I'm at the fork in the road and it's like leave my hometown and leave my corporate career, like I'm sure many of us have been there at some point. Leave my hometown and leave my corporate career and or drop out of school, something of that nature, right? And I'm at this fork in the road. Do I do it or do I not do it, right? Do I not do it is my comfort zone. It's something that I'm already comfortable with. Do I do it? Leave my hometown, leave my corporate job, leave school, whatever that thing is, leave my job and go into that known direction, unknown direction. There's gonna be a level of fear, man. And I think that level of fear is actually the direction to go into. So if I was on a stage, I would share different scenarios and different stories. I would prove the point, and then I would share the point, and then I would explain why that point is so true.
mm.
Before I started my cell phone journey, bro, I remember I was in the bathroom. There was an opportunity for me. I remember I was in the bathroom in the gym, and it was time for me to make the decision. Well, I had like, I don't know, like 10 grand in the bank from commissions, right? At the time, I was an employee and I had like saved upwards of 10,000 bucks. And I had a business partner going into the cell phone business. The business partner ended up not being able to pull in their portion of the weight. And it cost me like 10 grand to get started in my cell phone journey. I started off with a kiosk in the mall. Then I had to put up the whole 10 grand. And that 10 grand was so heavy on me, brother. It was so heavy on me. I remember I went to the gym, I had to make a decision. And I was looking at the mirror and I was thinking about all the failure that could happen. And I was looking in the mirror and I ended up bleeding. I ended up bleeding through my nose. I was so fearful. Where I come from, the money conversations is so heavy weighted.
Wow.
Your people are poor. The average household income where I come from is $50,000 a year. Household. Well, multiple people in the household, $50,000 a year, right? The city that I'm from, 1 square mile from one end to the other end. The friends I hung out with, many of them are still in prison today. 70, 60, 50 years in prison, locked up when they were 19, 20, 22 years old, very young. That's my home. That's where I come from. So being able to save 10,000 bucks and then getting to the point of you have to put it all into this business, into buying inventory. And my inventory was a couple of phones. It wasn't even like a big investment today. Now I think back, but back then it was the biggest deal of my life. And I remember thinking of so much negativity. And I remember I had to go to the gym and I just work it out. And I was working it out. And I remember going to the bathroom, just thinking about what could go wrong, what people from high school could say about me, all the things that my father's gonna say about me if I fail, what my mom's gonna say, my little brother, and I look in the mirror, I'm like, what are you gonna do? And then I had to make a decision that moment in the mirror. And when I was making that decision, I was so fearful, I started bleeding.
Wow.
It was pounding. I started bleeding. So number one, what I would share with that group is fear as a direction. I ended up taking that direction, and now $10,000 is minuscule compared to what it was that back then. But that decision of making moving forward with that fear is what started my journey. Number two, I will share another principle is get mentorship. When I look at my journey, even in the cell phone business, my transition into the cell phone business was with James Jackson. He ran a Metro PCS. I remember at the time he had like 10 locations. He ended up getting upwards of 150 locations with hundreds of employees. And I saw how he was doing it, and I spent a lot of time with him, and I learned from him. And then I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. I did it up to 4 locations, and I realized like, hey, I don't actually like this. I don't like this business, but it was able to create some money for me. And then I transitioned, and I traveled with, or I went. My mentor, the Asian mentor, was Mr. Lee. That was his name, and he had the Lamborghinis, the whole lifestyle. I spent time with him. Then I spent time with Les Brown. I would pick him up from the airport. We would travel from city to city doing events. I got up to that ranking where I was able to spend time with him. And not, it's not that there's ranks, but I got up to that level of closeness and proximity where he would call me and I would pick him up from the airport. We would go to another hotel, this event to that event, and we would travel together. Then, so he mentored me on how to communicate and how to speak. And then now high level, I look at high level as a mentor where I'm looking to do the big SaaS play. I'm like, high level, will you mentor me? And Sean and Robin, I was with Robin Alex last week in Arkansas. We were in the car together and I'm asking them like, hey, like this is what we're doing in our SaaS. This is our play. What have you learned in the high level that we can adopt inside of our version? Even though we're under you, like what our success is your success. Give us the game. And I'm sure that those moments are going to be stories for the future that I can share. Like, well, how did you sell a software for 100 million bucks? And I'm like, oh, this is what we did. We partnered with people like White Label Suite. We had this in the back end. We had customer success. We had these automations. We had this campaign, and so on and so forth. And then the result was a valuation of $100 million, and we decided to beat the bullet and we exited.
I
Or
love
we
it.
partly exited or partially exited. So number two is would be get a mentor. Number three would be take action fast.
Hmm.
So I would explain that point, and then I would explain a bunch of stories about taking action fast, because you can understand fears of direction, you can understand the get mentorship, but then if you keep the idea in your head long enough, someone else is going to take that idea. I remember I was with Les Brown one time in 2000 years ago, and we were having breakfast, and this was one of our off days, and we would just go chill and have breakfast. And I remember he had asked me for a book name, the title of a book, what it should be. He ended up taking the name and then he ended up writing a book on that. So it's on Amazon today. It's been a number one bestseller for a while. But maybe not today as of right now, but before when it launched, this was 2018. But when we were sitting down, he was like, "Okay, I got these names. Okay, I got these names. Which one do you think? Your younger generation. I want to hear your thoughts." And I was like, "All right, based on what you're saying here, like I know this is your quote, but this is what's gonna hit. This is what's gonna hit online. This is what if you say this on a podcast, people are gonna love this." So I gave him that name, and he's like, "All right, I need to get the domain right now." And I'm like, "Why right now? Like, let's finish eating. Let's." He's like, "When you have the thought, you need to take action fast because it's as if the molecules or whatever is in the air that someone else could capture that thought, and then they can be the one to take action on it. So if you really want to create success, you must take action fast." And that's when I was like, "Oh." Got it. Every opportunity in life, when you have the opportunity, if you ponder on it long enough, talk about it long enough, someone else is gonna grab that. And you're gonna be like, man, I was the one that created that Apple computer. I was the one that created that Nike shoes. Man, that was my idea. And then you die having created nothing when the other person, what they did differently is that they just took action quicker than you did.
Is that something that you live with today? Like, do you look, feel it, and act on it immediately?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's cool.
even when we did our deal, like remember if you remember in the conversation, I was like,
Yep.
I don't know if we're ready, brother. Like, I don't even know if like what, you know, now we got to create a knowledge base. We got like we there's a bunch of elements that we have to do to move the amount of customers that we have into usage. And I was like, team, let's do it.
I love
Done. And
that.
I,
I
done.
remember the
I'm committed.
conversation, and it was a direct reflection on take action. Now, hey Andy, just go back to that young kid in the bathroom, about to make that investment with the 10,000, and you're starting to bleed. Take yourself back to that room right now and the feeling that you had, and if you can, be a mentor to that kid right now. What would you, Andy Audate, standing on the shoulder of the young Andy Audate, faced with that opportunity and that decision, bleeding because he's worried about what could happen, what would you say to that kid now?
I would say, how big is your vision? I would ask like how, in the grand scheme of things, how big do you envision your life to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And he would tell me an answer. And I probably at that time he would be like, you know, probably like $30,000 a month or 20, some nominal number today, but like let's say it was 25,000 bucks a month. So he would tell me that. And I would say, take that investment that you're gonna do now. If you put that all in and you get to that $25,000 a month, is it worth it? And then his answer would be, yeah, of course, that'll be a no-brainer. If you take that $10,000 investment and you put it towards the a business and it doesn't work out, but you learn the lessons and the principles that got you to the $25,000 a month business, would it be worth it? And then that's when it's like, but if I learned the principles that end up getting me to the $25,000 a month, then the answer would be yes. So in both scenarios, it's a yes, it's worth it. That's why you take the leap. That's why you do it.
I love it. My
One,
mentor said to me, you either earn something or you learn something, and either way you win.
yes, yes, and I think that those are the principles that outweighs the actual earning. Because
Mm,
the money that I spent back then, I don't know where that money gone. That was 10 years ago. But today, those principles still live on. That
yeah,
mindset still lives on, and that's what creates success today.
I love it. What would future
As I
Andy?
was explaining that to
Yeah.
you, I was imagining my little brother,
Mm,
who's 2 years my junior, and now he's calling me.
I love that. Dude, talk
Now
about the molecules coming out.
the molecules. Hey, bro, let me call you back. I'm on a podcast right now. All right, bro.
Super cool. Hey, so what would future Andy say to you right now? Like, take yourself forward 20 years. You've hit some wins, you've had some misses, but you're living a life that you've designed. What would future Andy say to you right now?
You can do more if you delegate and leverage.
Nice.
You can do
Nice.
more if you delegate, leverage, and find out how you can make even more people win.
Tell me about that. So
Like bigger
delegate,
groups.
leverage, and helping people win.
So delegate. There's certain things that still like even though I gotta I have a decent sized team. I got about 40 people who work for me, and there's certain things that I still like doing. There's certain things that I still get involved. Like last week I was at the hotel, and I was traveling, and I was like, man, I want to code a chat widget. Because we have different apps, and I wanted to make it all work. So I was the one that was writing the JavaScript code, and I was like, I don't even want to wait for someone else to do it. So I wrote down the JavaScript code, and I figured it out, made it work. But then I was like, man, did I need to do this? It took me 30 minutes or so, but I was like, do I need to do this? So there's still certain things that I got to be okay with the time, with the distance of time that it takes. As an entrepreneur, many times it's like I want to see it now,
Mm.
and that between the moment of 8 p.m. where I had the thought of having a multi-chat widget built for our membership portal, that moment didn't even want to wait the 48 hours for my development team to go ahead and create it. I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. So I think there's gonna be moments where my older self is gonna say, you could have done more in that time if you just truly let it go, like get it off your plate and let it go. Even your ideas, like just record a Loom video, submit it, and allow your team that you hired to take it on. And I think that's still a principle that I still get to like let go of.
Nice. Sounds like old
Be-
Andy's going to be wise, man. You'll have to pop back in and do another session with us. It's going to
yeah,
be,
yeah.
he's going to be wise, man. Hey, so,
Number
like,
two, the
yeah, go,
leverage.
go. Absolutely. Keep going.
The number two is the leverage is identify partners. I remember I was reading a book called Focus by Al Reese this weekend, and he was saying, who in your customer base or who in your fulfillment benefits when you sell? And I was like, what do you mean by that? So I'll give you an example through the examples that he was talking about. So he was talking about, like, for example, if you are running a like a taxi business. Now, this book was written in 1996, but he was like, if you're running a taxi business, the gasoline companies benefit, right? So if you're going through some challenges in your business, why don't you bring in some partners like the gasoline business? Because when you sell more taxi slots, you're going to end up consuming more gasoline. So they win
Mm,
as so you can leverage those relationships, right?
yeah.
You can leverage those relationships. So if you're running a taxi business, bring in and now also the mechanic who's going to have to service your car. Like if you have a fleet of cars, you're going to end up going to them much more. So you can leverage a deal where they become your in-house mechanic rather than you outsourcing because you're gonna be, as your business grows, so you can determine terms with them. So those are some examples of leverage. There's a bunch of different other factors when it comes down to leverage. But then the number three principle that I think the bigger older me is gonna really think about is identify groups to help win rather than individuals.
Okay, tell me
Identify
about that.
groups. So today we help a lot of individuals win. We help a
Mm,
lot of independent business owners. We call them IBOs or entrepreneurs. Um, we help them win as the entrepreneur that's leading the organization. I think that there's bigger groups that collectively have bigger problems and we can support them to win. Like for example, Amazon helped a large group of people win, right? Damn near most of America. The nuclear family who wants to buy the toothpaste for the kids they don't have time to travel to the grocery store. They want to buy the toothpaste. They help that group of people, which is the nuclear family, the mom, the dad, and the kids. They help them win. Now, do other people use their products? For sure, but they at least helped one large group of people, the nuclear family, mom, dad, and two kids. So now today we help entrepreneurs. I think there's going to be bigger groups that we can support winning, and bigger companies that we can support in winning.
I love it. So cool. So, dude, like you're moving forward now. Are you designing the life of your dreams, Andy, or are you still frustrated with elements of the day to day?
I would say today, truthfully, I have designed the life of my dreams today.
Amazing.
The fact that my 16-year-old self would have said, hey, I want you to travel. I want you to be married. I want you to have someone like you can trust, have a kid. So like I have a daughter on the way. Last
Congrats.
just 48 hours ago, I was in Manila, Philippines. I spent all of last week there. Before that, I was on stage with Kevin Harrington and Damon John and all these folks. And then the the week before that, I'm travel. So it's a lot of travel was a big factor. The relationship with money, I don't have a relationship with money where there's scarcity. I don't have a scarcity conversation when it comes to money. I have a multiplication conversation. I have an expansion conversation when it comes down to money. My relationship with money has completely changed, which which to me that was the life that I wanted to live. I just me and my wife went to the I had a photo here. Me and my wife just went to Hawaii and we were scuba diving with turtles and fishes and so on and so forth. And throughout that time, I'm looking at Stripe and I'm like, hey babe, at dinner, I'm like, hey babe, just wanted to show you something, let you know I'm still the man, MRR, right? So all those small things, I think to me is the life that I genuinely dreamed of at 16 years old. Now that I've accomplished that, my vision is to live the dreams of my 30-year-old self. Now, my 30-year-old dream is much bigger and much more expansive and much more impactful to the rest. So I taking care of, at least of my home. Now I want to take care of bigger groups of people. And that's where my 30-year-old self, which I turned 35 months ago, my 30-year-old conversation is to make a bigger impact, thinking about legacy. What will happen when I'm not here anymore? What will I have implemented when I'm not here? Who would I have made an impact to? How many people will I have mentored? Things of that nature. That's today's conversation in which I get to live out those dreams.
I love it, man. So you talked before about the advice to your younger self, and you were asking the question where if you had invested 10,000 but learned the skills to build the $25,000 a month, would it be worth it? Yeah, absolutely, it would. So Andy, designing this life that you now have, is it a formula? Could you do it again?
Yeah, oh, 100%.
Tell me about
100%.
that. Like, what would be the step 1 to 5? Start again, start from scratch, clean slate. Sucks, but let's go. We can do it. What's the one to
So
five?
so number one is I get to find a person. The fastest way to create results is to get around people. Now, there's levels to professionalism, there's levels to money, there's levels to results, there's levels to identity, there's levels. So, for example, you can say, hey, the entrepreneur that I want to get hang around with is Donald Trump. Like you can make that your target person that you want to spend time with, but then there's a tremendous amount of layers to get to someone to spend time with Donald Trump. But there's also the neighborhood entrepreneur that's near you. So first of all, I would find somebody that I can get mentored by. Like that's the number. That's been a principle. So if you notice through my story, when I wanted to figure out the cell phone deal, I accidentally that was my first mentor, my first real deal mentor, um, who showed me principles. That $10,000, I'll give you an example. That $10,000 that I saved up was from his mentorship. that I saved up. I remember I had gotten to like 7 grand in my commissions, and I went to him and I said, "Hey man, what do I do with the 7 grand? Like I don't know what to do with the money, so I got to spend it, do something with it. I'm used to being broke." And he's like, "Just put in a different bank account." So he started teaching me the principles of profit first. If you understand Mike McCollowitz's book, Profit First, that's a principle like where you have different bank accounts to manage your money rather than having one big bank account. You can have multiple bank accounts. So like in one business, I could have 11, 12 bank accounts for all different reasons, not because it's crazy amount of money in there, it's just for different reasons. And that's a great way to make sure your business is profitable. So he started teaching me those principles that he had to learn. And so he said, put in a different bank account, don't look at it, don't touch it. And I remember saying, but I have the money. Let me go buy a car. And he said, don't buy a car. Ride your wheels until it fall off, until the wheels fall off. And I remember that principle. I remember that conversation that we had, and it worked. So number one is I would say get a mentor. And the way that you identify the mentor is identify someone that you want to duplicate their life, at least at this stage, at least at this current result. Like you want to at least get to their level, and then you can always find another mentor and continue to grow. But find the mentor that you can level up with. So that's number one. Number two, it's actually serving. If you want to create more results, it's identifying how to serve other people. That mentor, find out how you can multiply his business. Find out how you can take his life to the next level or her life to the next level. Because it's the principles that is gonna serve you. It's the lessons that's gonna serve you. It's not the it's not you doing it yourself. Like it's those lessons that's gonna serve you. Like the fastest way that if you want to learn, I'll give you an example since we're in a similar industry. I host events where I bring in our affiliates. So I'll go to a speaking event and I'll give our affiliates shirts. They can fly in on their money, fly in to help me sell my white label Progretta. So there's been events, for example, where it's like 12 affiliates who are all Progretta t-shirts going out into the marketplace to bring in new subscribers. They get an affiliate commission. That's how they get paid. But they pay on their dime. That learning curve, I give them the skills, I give them the processes, and I give them real life experience to go ahead and do that. We had someone in our program. They went out and did a bunch of sales. I forget the exact number. It was still in the single digits, so less than 10. But they did a bunch of sales back to back of our white label software for $399 a month. And then they went and got those customers. And what do you think happens next? They now know those principles. So guess what their strategy has been since the first time they did it with us? They now go to events and they acquire customers for their business. So because they went and did it for someone else. So if they were in their selfish mind, like, Andy, I'm not going to help you sell your SaaS. I'm going to focus on selling my own SaaS. Cool. That's not a problem. That's not bad. If you want to fast pace your journey, what I would do is I would go find someone else that I can go serve. Like that's why, today I'm in a high level affiliate, but I would go find someone else that I can go serve in their business and help them with their vision because those principles are what's going to last forever
Mm.
versus the couple of customers that you're going to earn or the money that you're going to make. Those principles is what lasts forever. So number one, find a mentor. Number two, support them in their growth and their vision. Number three, align myself, like immerse myself. It's all a people play. I'm align myself and be around other people who are like-minded with the objective that I have. So
Hmm.
when I wanted to get married, before I don't go and find a wife. I go find a mentor who's married and I say, what does it take to be a husband? What does it take? So that was my play. What does it take to be a husband and an entrepreneur? That's why I spent time with Mr. Lee. I'm like, what does it take to be a husband, entrepreneur, and a dad? Like, well, tell me what that looks like. And he's giving me a schedule. What does it look like, right? So then I help him in his business, in his life, in his vision, in his future, in his household, and then I transition, and then now today I'm a husband with a daughter on the way, right?
Amazing.
So number one, find a mentor. Number two, support that person. Number three, align myself. Like I want to get around other husbands or other entrepreneurs or other Christians, whatever that is that you're trying to level up in align myself with other people that are like-minded. And what happens is the results happen as a byproduct.
Amazing. Amazing. So nowhere in there did you talk about products, sales, marketing, finding a group of customers, that kind of stuff. You're talking about setting yourself up first, making sure that you're the right mindset, the right people, that you're becoming the right kind of person that can build something. Are you telling me that the products in the market take care of itself after that?
That's a byproduct. The
Mm.
byproduct is determining the next thing. Like for example, when someone looks for the right opportunity, the opportunity will present itself because you're already in the social group. You're already in the social circles. You're
Mm.
already in the right place. When I found, I'm gonna give you another example to high level because we're both in the high level ecosystem.
Yeah.
When I found high level, the way that I found high level was I was invited to an event by a previous mentor that I was helping them grow their business. I was a top affiliate at another company. I brought them hundreds of customers, and they brought me into this to an event that high level was speaking at, right? And that's because I was supporting someone else in their vision. I get to live mine. My vision
Wow.
gets to live because I get to support someone else's. And then I also help other people who I mentor who helps me with my vision. So it keeps on playing, but as a byproduct, their vision grows and it's just like this circle of life that just keeps on happening and happening and happening and happening.
Wow. Dude, I love it. I'm absolutely in awe. So, man, tell me about a day in the life of Andy Audate right now. Daughter on the way. Congratulations. Travel more often than not, in your calendar. You're leading a group of people. You're an entrepreneur, a Christian, an influencer. You got all of those boxes ticked. What is a day in the life of Andy Audate looking like now?
Every day is different. Ideal day, I wake up around 4:30 in the morning, go to a cold plunge. I go to the gym. When I get to the gym, this morning was battle ropes, right? So I did the battle ropes and burpees and so on and so forth. So get to the gym, and then some days I go out to Sprouts, which is a grocery store near me, and I go to the grocery store, pick up some steak, cook some steak and eggs in the morning. Wake up my wife with some flowers. That was just this morning. Wake up with my wife with some flowers and some chocolate. Let her know how much I love her, and take out the dog. Then get on. I get some messages. My team is online at that time. I guess I see the messages in Slack with my team handling, questions, challenges, concerns. They're all working together in unison. I might jump into a conversation that I see inside of Slack. And then I have a meeting with my executive assistant on Zoom where we do something called a sync meeting, which is
Hmm.
let's get on the same page. I have some ideas, you have some ideas. I'm sure stuff has come in through the inbox, things of that nature. So bring it up to my attention, what's actually important. I'll bring up to you what my thoughts are, and then we get on the same page in alignment of what's next. We just meet 3 times a week, and then I finish our sync meeting. I might do a podcast here and there. Just wrapped up a podcast with Eric Sexton, who is one of the top commercial real estate brokers in Las Vegas, Nevada. So he's the one who's selling, like, for example, Chick-fil-A restaurants and Starbucks and things of those natures. So spend time with people like that, and socialize and do podcasts with them and people like yourself, Walt. And then I may have one more meeting. Like I got another meeting talking about our event, the GHL Engine Summit that's coming up in a few weeks. So I got one more meeting to see the progress, what my team is doing on that. Wrap up the day by getting dinner with my wife again, and then take our puppy for a walk, and then head out to bed. And that's
Man,
just normal.
again, the life of the dreams. Dude, I love it. Guys, I am very conscious of Andy's time, so I'm going to wrap up. But here's what I know for sure. I know for sure that following Andy Audate is a strong and solid move. The guy has created an incredible pathway forward as a leader, as somebody that can bring others behind him and encourage their success. So I'm going to give a shout out here. Make sure that you're checking Andy out. As I said, he's a best-selling author, but you can follow along with Andy at andyaudate.com. But he's also got his coaching program, which is ghlengine.com/coaching. Get involved there, and Andy can help you with entrepreneurial journeys and moving stuff forward. Of course, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, and YouTube and Facebook, which Andy is very, very active on. Andy, from my side, dude, thank you for being you. Thank you for taking those lessons of that kid in the bathroom, taking that risk that you took on that day, and then building that forward into a future that others can follow, and helping those along the way. Dude, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and from the people that are following you and will follow you in the future. I appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this episode. This has been a superb experience. For those of you who are listening, remember, take action fast. If you're in a moment where you're like, "Hey, what do I do?" Fear is the direction, the one that's nervousness, and then get a mentor. don't forget to get a mentor. Get around someone who's actually doing it. If you enjoy Walt, you see what Walt's doing, what Walt and his team has created, which I'm a customer of, so I've invested into it. If you enjoy that, spend that time, spend that energy, spend those resources to level up and take your business to the next level. So don't be afraid. If you're interested in getting coaching from me, jhlengine.com/coaching. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one episode.
Andy Audate, you're amazing. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend.